everybody, we're back. I have Kelli Baker on the line. She's going to be talking to us about her brand new single called 6 Feet Under, and it is October, so it's a great song for this particular month, and I am excited to be able to talk to her about this and her career. We're going to learn a little bit about her, and maybe her story will inspire you too, because I know she's had to overcome some odds to get to where she's at today. So welcome to the show, Kelli. How you doing today?
Doing very well. Thank you so much for having me.
This is fun. I love talking to people. I love learning about people. And I love the journey. As an artist myself, I realized how hard it was to get out there. It's a very cutthroat type of industry. You wouldn't think so. But,
Right.
people backstab, people lie, people cheat, people take advantage of the people. And it can be really tough to get to where you're at. So to be here, you definitely overcame a lot, which is a lot to say.
Thank you very much.
Please tell me a little bit about your story. When did you start singing?
Well, I've always been singing my entire life. I mean, it was singing in all different ways. I started in the church choir. My mom did the church choir. It was kind of how I was brought up. And then throughout high school, that's kind of just what I did. Music was always what I did in some fashion or another. When I graduated, I started messing around with different bands. I joined a hard rock band in Phoenix and did like a folk duo thing. And then I would take time off and go back in. And it's really been since 2018 that something just clicked, and just, when you have something about yourself that you just know is what you're meant to do, and life kind of gets in the way. And then I just decided, yeah, I'm doing this. I don't care what anybody thinks. And I'm just going to do it, because you have like this amount of time to be who you are. And so I decided to just really give it a real go and see what I could shake out of it.
I love that. So seeing that you were in a hard rock band and you were some other bands, what's your genre of choice?
I really like the blues, because the blues, I feel, is underneath so many genres, and it's got that power and energy to it. And then I love to sing rock. Like, I love like hard rock, and I love singing some Led Zeppelin and getting wild on stage, all of that. So blues kind of rock is where I hang out, and I like the bluegrass too. There's so much cool stuff out there that you can really throw yourself into and mold yourself into, but the blues is the bottom of it all for me.
And that was kind of like one of the basis for Americana music, that and bluegrass.
Yeah.
But if you really look at it, the 50s rock was kind of like country.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, I didn't realize that until later on. And so it's like your three genres kind of all work together, and you can really make some good, unique stuff out of that.
Right. Yes.
So tell me a little bit about your songwriting. When did you get started writing your own stuff? Because that's not an easy task. I mean, I've tried to write a song. It is not easy.
There's so many different things about it that gets easier as I do it more. And, it comes from being like a moody teenager in my bedroom and being like listening to Tori Amos and writing things out, and then, always writing some kind of poetry. So that's kind of my method. I write first. And a lot of times I will be reading authors that I like and put myself in a certain amount of mood. And then later I'll write music, and then I kind of marry those two together. And for me, songwriting, the best of it came to me when I stopped really caring what people thought. Because like, if you make yourself palatable to everybody, which you can do, but for me, that's not what I want to do. That's another thing that came with, like, I would always be thinking, oh, what would my grandparents think if they knew I think these bad thoughts, or like, my mother, and then I'm just like, I just don't care. And the more authentic I was, the more I started to just resonate, and things started to flow with me and for other people, because everybody has intensity to them.
Yeah. So in your music, what do you try to focus on? I mean, I know there's people that like to just focus on love. Sometimes people focus on relationships. Sometimes people just focus on going to the bar and getting drunk. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many different things that you can focus on. What do you want your songs to give a message to the people? What type of message do you like to send?
Ooh, because I can't say any specific emotion, because it changes all the time, I would say I would strive to be authentic in everything that I do. So authenticity. So when I write things, 99.9% of what I'm presenting you is a personal experience. And I find I get the most emotion from that. And people connect with emotion. So whether I'm in a great mood and things are going great and I'm writing things more upbeat and like I'm feeling powerful, that comes out a lot, or I'm feeling vulnerable, if as long as I'm authentic, I think that's what I would like to come across as.
Well, you're right, because you're literally putting yourself in the song. So it's like people can actually kind of put themselves through your eyes and they can feel that probably a lot more, which is a lot. It's very intense to be able to do that.
Thanks.
You know, I like songs with I like songs with emotions, and I like songs that kind of come from a true life experience in many ways, because sometimes we don't ever experience that, and sometimes you hear a song, it's like, I definitely don't want to experience that, you know. So
Yeah,
it can be very therapeutic for people. That's what I love about music.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's just like that's why you listen to certain songs when you're feeling all kinds of ways. That's why I'm creating different playlists for all kinds of energy. That's another thing I love to do, is make playlists all the time.
You know, one of the things I love about music the most is like I think it's the modern day time machine. Because if you listen to a song, it can zap you back all the way to 1970s when you were young and you were going to the beach. You can
Yeah,
remember that. Or maybe it's the 1990s, or maybe it's just yesterday. It can take you to a certain place in time and relive things in
yeah.
your head, because it like brings out the memory. It's like it opens up that drawer and there it is. I love that. And I don't know if people realize how powerful music can be like that.
Hmm. Well, speaking of my playlist, I just did this whole playlist based around my first car, and it was songs for Prelude, which was a '86 Honda Prelude.
Nice.
But it was all songs that remind me, same thing, I put that on, it makes me feel like I'm driving with the windows down, I won't say when, but it was a bit ago.
Well, let me ask you this then. When you think about that prelude, the 86 prelude, what is the song that first comes to mind that makes it special?
Mm. Well, there's a couple things. One was the Missy Elliott Rain Superfly that was stuck in the tape deck because it melted in there and I couldn't get it out. Because I lived in Arizona and it was hot, you couldn't leave things anywhere. So I was like, well, I guess this is just what I listen to all the time. And the My So-Called Life soundtrack, I would guess. That was a really good soundtrack. And that's kind of what I was listening to when I was driving around in the Honda Prelude, I guess. Big
So
soundtrack
cool.
person.
So cool. I always wanted a Honda Prelude. My dad used to take me to school because he was a car salesman. So he'd show up in
Mhm.
a Prelude VTEC, the newer ones, and those things would come in. You had the big spoiler. I mean, everybody stops and looks when you get out of your car at school. It's so cool. It's so cool. So who were some of the biggest influencers for you growing up when you listen to your music?
For now, honestly, I would say Bonnie Raitt. Annie Lennox. Here's a good analogy of a song that makes you go, so my mom bought the Medusa album from Annie Lennox, and she did a cover of Don't Let It Bring You Down by Neil Young, right? And I would listen to it all the time. Years later, American Beauty came out, and they used that version in one of the ending scenes. It's a very poignant scene of American Beauty. And something about that song, what it did to that scene, just, I don't know, like blew my mind. I felt like I went through puberty or something like that. You know what I mean? It was such an intense moment. So things like that, like Annie Lennox, I remember a lot growing up, Bonnie Raitt a lot. My dad introduced me to the Beatles. He introduced me to the Rolling Stones. And my dad introduced me to the blues. We went and saw B.B. King together, actually, too. Yeah.
That's special, because that you never get that back again,
Yeah.
for
It's
sure.
his birthday today. He passed away a few years ago, and it's his birthday today. So that was a good shout out to him.
You know, as an artist, one of the things that I realized is that I wanted to be unique. You know, I wanted, when people saw my stuff, I didn't want them to wonder who did it without
Right.
looking at the name. I wanted them to say, oh, that's hers. I know exactly who that is. And it's not easy to do that when the arts are so influx with different styles and different people. So especially music can be pretty congested. So how do you stay unique to yourself, but also brand yourself? So when people hear your music, it's like, that's Kelli.
That would stay with the authenticity thing. I like experimenting with different sounds, and you'll notice, like if you listen to my song Run, I put an actual church hymn into it, and that goes back to my church upbringing, where there's just like a kind of haunting, like it's hard for me to describe the way that I visually see the music that I do. Somebody explained it kind of like an ethereal blues, and I liked that kind of way, but it's a very like, oh brother, where art thou, Tarantino, kind of trapped in the South, kind of sexy blues. Oh, if you're like that, and that's, I'm hearing people say when they listen to what I'm doing, they're like, oh yeah, that's what Kelli's doing. It's, somebody said, why are you always like in a graveyard or doing something dark? I said, I don't know.
You're in graveyards too?
This video I just shot was in a graveyard. They're like, are you always in a graveyard? I said, sometimes, I don't know.
We would be best friends. I live in graveyards. So, you know, it's really cool because sometimes you can get a lot of inspiration from graveyards.
Yeah.
You know, like the memory of Elizabeth Reed by the Allman Brothers, they actually have a grave site where that was based upon. I saw the grave, you know, and it inspired them. And there's a lot of good memories that they had down there. And it's like, that's kind of cool. I mean, it's cool to find inspiration in places that people wouldn't expect.
Exactly. There's, you know, there's cool, where actually I shot the video for 6 Feet Under. It's called the Old Burying Ground. So I live in Huntington, New York, and there's a lot of history here.
Oh,
and that burying ground comes from, there's graves from the 1600s there, all around. It's so interesting to me. You know, you want to be respectful, of course, when you're walking around in there, but I find it really fascinating.
It is. I was born and raised up in Connecticut, so I know all those old places. I've been to New York. I love it. I mean, it's so cool, the history there, and that's kind of where I vibe. I think if I had to be somewhere, I'm in Florida now. I mean, the only thing that keeps me happy down here is Disney, but the the part that I miss is the history, the pumpkins, the fall, the cemeteries. I mean, I miss all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's and that's just coming from where I lived in Arizona. We had no changing of seasons or anything. I mean, people like Halloween there, but it's so different here. I really like it here.
I do too. So tell me a little bit about 6 Feet Under. What is the plot of the song, really?
So I actually wrote that when I was quarantined with COVID in January, and I was trapped inside my house. And I kind of have, I'm trying to think without being entirely personal, when it comes to relationships, I don't know if it's a jaded perspective, maybe, but it's like, for me, it seemed like all these guys that were coming around were presenting the same to me. And I'm like, I've already seen it, you know, I've already been through this. You're not showing me any kind of new, you know, so that's kind of where it came from. Like, don't even try and come around here because I'm so much more elevated, or, you know, like, I don't need to, it's not oppressing me much kind of thing, you know, like kind of a back off of me. So.
How long did it take you to write it?
That one, I probably wrote in about half an hour, I think.
Really?
Because, and I think that the lyrics came almost organically with that when I was writing it. Sometimes I pull, sometimes I don't. And the ones that I write really quickly like that are the ones I usually end up liking the most.
Yeah, because it's like it totally vibed from your head to your heart and everything else, and it just flows really easy. There's no stopping grounds, there's no walls getting in your way. So it definitely is authentic.
Yeah. If you look at so not the actual official video I'm releasing out, but if on my YouTube channel and there's me in a hallway singing it, that's me quarantined in my hallway the day that I wrote it. interesting. Yeah.
So how hard was it to actually produce the song once you got it written because of COVID? I mean, there's a lot of places that still are not open, and I just don't understand it, but they have the reasons, I guess. But I mean, for the entertainment industry, that's tough. So how did you get this done through this pandemic?
So my producer is actually a personal friend, and he's actually married to one of my best friends. So, and they live right up the street. He has a studio on his own property. He's the guy that he was the percussionist for Wheatus. They did Teenage Dirtbag, and we've worked together on a few of my songs. So he goes in there and he's a genius when it comes to any kind of instruments. We didn't need to bring in a lot of people. It was, I came in with the acoustic parts, and then we just kind of built the energy around it, just the two of us.
That's really cool.
My nose is itching. Sorry. I'm like trying to hide it. I was like, okay, sorry.
You know what? This is just a fun show. We want realistic stuff. I mean, we haven't had any nip slips or anything like that on there yet, but
let's see how this goes. Yeah.
Go for it. So when you look back at the song from when you wrote it to how it came out, did it get better? Was it exactly as you expected? How did it turn out for you?
It did get better, and we were trying to come up with different sounds. We ended up going with Spanish guitar that gets woven throughout it, because we were trying different things. If you listen to some of my songs, sometimes we'll throw like a banjo in it. It almost certainly always has an organ, like a bluesy harmonica, but we couldn't get the right feel for it until we brought in that Spanish guitar. It was almost getting frustrated of like what could bring the atmosphere into it. But the Spanish guitar is what really did it. And I think that's what, I don't know, Philip he's magical, really, you know, just the way that he sees things that come together, the work that we do together. I'm just so happy with. And I've worked with other people who I really also enjoy, but I think Philip and I just have a great understanding that whenever I know that when I'm walking in there, I'm walking out with something really important. So.
Now, I've never heard of a Spanish guitar. What is that?
Like a Spanish style of like steel guitar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you'll hear that like right at the da 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 da. That's him. That is like I play guitar, but that's him being magical and me saying yes.
That's cool. So with this particular song, do you have another album coming out with it to complement it, or are you just kind of releasing a single right now?
This is a single, but he and I have a couple things we haven't released yet. We've been working on an EP, which might end up just turning into a full album at this point. And I should be back in the studio with him very soon. I have a new song that I just wrote that I can't stop playing at shows. And I think that needs to get down right away. So I kind of like just releasing things as they come out. You know, it's maybe not the traditional way to do things, but that's kind of what we're doing.
Well, you can now, because I mean, you literally have the digital platform, which kind of made a lot of the music industry viable for people, because I mean, right. It's very expensive. I don't know if anybody out there knows how expensive it is to actually produce a full-length CD. That's why you needed studios and you needed big-time labels to bring you to where you wanted to get. But now with YouTube and all these other platforms that you can kind of be like your own independent label, you can do a lot.
Exactly. And it's just, you know, I have a Patreon, which has been I'm so thankful for it. And it's a smaller scale one, but it means so much. And that's actual people that connect with you. And that helps a lot. As an independent person like myself, you know, everything I do, from funding this music video to the t-shirts that I have printed, the equipment that I buy, you know, it's money. It's a lot. And it's a lot. So it's a passion project for sure.
You know, I love that, you know, artists are still putting out music videos. I mean, when I was growing up, MTV was the thing. I mean, I remember the day it turned on, we all sat around the TV, came on, it was Video Killed the Radio Star. And it was fun. It was a fun moment. And now it's like, they don't even play music videos on there anymore, which I think is sad, because I think it complements the song.
Right.
Do you think that it's important to have a music video with your song, or it doesn't really matter?
I do. I like it. You know, it tells a story. Visuals tell the story. People are visual people. Not even, I would say these days, like people are visual people. It just adds a different aspect. And it adds almost the interpretation that you want to lend to it also. You know, maybe people are taking so much from your song. I don't know. I do think it's important. And they're definitely fun to make. I
Yeah.
really enjoy. Yeah, this one I brought all my crazy friends in on, so that's good.
It's so much better when you have crazy friends in it, for sure. So it makes you look normal, right?
Exactly right. Yes, exactly right. There's my friend. This is not an exaggeration. My friend called the director the night before and emailed her some questions, and she said, "This guy's emailed me and said if he should bring instruments." And I thought, "Bring instruments? That's weird. Who is it?" And she told me. And then he shows up. He's like, "I also brought vampire teeth if you want me to wear them." I said, "No." I like your energy though, but no, you know, don't put the vampire teeth in. But he was like raring to go. He's and he ended up being a big part of the video that you'll see when you come out. Very funny.
So is the music video out now, or when will it drop?
Very soon. The director got pulled away to a project, so probably it should be within the next week. I'll have the final project. I already went through the second edit on it, and so I'm just waiting to sign off on those last edits, and then we're going to release it out. So should be very soon.
And 6 Feet Under is available right now, right?
That the song itself is streaming. Yeah, October 1st it went out.
So I definitely want to be able to get your song on here in a minute. So let's kind of tell everybody where they can find your music, where they can see if you're touring, whatever else you got. I'm sure you got some merch that people are going to want to check out too. So tell us where they can find you, your social media, your websites, where you can get your song.
So my website is kellibaker.com. It's Kelly with an I. And everything will feed from there. That the landing page, any kind of streaming service you want to listen to is there. I have a store with shirts and stickers. I have a really cool poster that we also made into the shirt, which I did kind of like that Grateful Dead Live at the Fillmore style, like that real vintagey style. So I have those up for sale. And where else can you find me? My concert calendar is on my website, and I'm also on Bands in Town, which I update all the time. So if you follow Bands in Town and or just go through my website, and then my Patreon is also a great way to support as well.
Really cool. Well, for anybody that's listening to the radio, we're going to be hearing her song 6 Feet Under right now, but how about you introduce it?
Thank you for listening, and thank you for this interview. And my name is Kelli Baker, and this is 6 Feet Under.
Guys, after the song, we're going to take a quick commercial break. I got to pay bills, but we'll be back after that. Enjoy the song, rock out, have some fun. We'll be right back after this.
Like, OMG, you were on TV and junk.